This is Duke University.
Each year, Duke University hosts the Startup Challenge, a chance for innovative and brilliant student entrepreneurs to formulate startup ideas and present them to over 500 Duke alumni judges. Each year, we give away over $100,000 in prizes to Duke student teams, including specialty prizes like the BME Prize offered by the Pratt School of Engineering, the Clean Energy Prize offered by the Duke University Energy Initiative, and the Borchard Prize endowed by Duke alum David Cummings. The entrepreneurship competition runs throughout the year and culminates in a final event in September where a grand prize of $50,000 is awarded and the audience gets to vote for their favorite team. Since the founding of the Startup Challenge in 1999, students have taken on the world's problems and proposed solutions of their own. Many entrepreneurs have said they've become entrepreneurs because of their experiences in the Startup Challenge.
I was a sophomore when we started the Duke Startup Challenge, and actually I had no idea that founding a company around something that you wanted to create was even an option. That was my first experience with doing that. I was going a completely different route, and it was the first time that I had an experience of what it means to start a company and to be an entrepreneur. One of the best outcomes of the Startup Challenge is that that's how I met my co-founder today. We started with the project that we entered into. Now we're building robots together.
Because of the Startup Challenge, I can't be anything but an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship is incredibly fun. It is something that is incredibly fulfilling. And as soon as you've been bit by that, there's very little else you can do. It completely changed the way I thought about my career, the way that I thought, like, I'm not going to go and interview for a big company. I'm going to start a big company. I'm going to build, my own future, build, the future that I want.
My name is Chuck Easley. We're here in the School of Engineering at Stanford University in the Department of Management Science and Engineering. I was an undergraduate at the time, a senior at Duke, and the inspiration really came from a study abroad that I did in India, where I stayed with a village family in a very rural area in India that was having severe drought. When I got back to Duke, I wanted to try to find some solution to this. Up until that time, I hadn't really given too much thought to entrepreneurship, but I happened to see a flyer on campus for the Duke Startup Challenge, and that's really what inspired me to get involved in entrepreneurship and join the Startup Challenge.
Drought, pests, and disease, which threaten our food supply and cost farmers billions of dollars annually in yield losses.
Most of my undergraduate career at Duke, I was focused on biology and neuroscience. As a result of getting involved in the Duke Startup Challenge, it really opened my eyes to the world of entrepreneurship and to everything that's involved in taking an invention from the lab and bringing it to the market to really solve a real-world problem. So it had a big impact in exposing me to entrepreneurship, inspiring me to think of myself as an entrepreneur, and really changing my future career path.
At work. And throughout the day, you wanted something healthy, refreshing, energizing to drink.
I won the best undergraduate startup and the best social enterprise. With the $11,500 that I won, I was able to funnel that into buying cans. I had to buy 20,000 cans at a time. I had to buy 10,000 labels. And that's what the Duke Startup Challenge gave me. It gave me the funds that I needed to be able to take the next step. And 3 years later, this is where we are with our own manufacturing facility.
I actually wasn't expecting to win because I knew that biotech have a long runway, so it's harder for investors to invest early stage. Entrepreneurship is all about taking that risk and the leap of faith. Really a life-changing experience. Because of that, I was able to build my network with the judges that were there, also faculty that was at Duke that were more than willing to help out and see what they can do to help progress. I was extremely grateful for the opportunity and so excited that our company was chosen as the winner.
Sinan is the winner.
When I walk into a meeting with especially someone here locally, and then mention that I had won the Duke Startup Challenge, the conversation flows better because they automatically say, oh, if she went through that process and won, then there is potential for her technology.
We've seen so many great projects come through, and they just keep innovating. Participating in the Startup Challenge has allowed thousands of Duke students to see what entrepreneurship is really about, and to allow them to try out their own startups and to get feedback on what really makes a startup successful.
to the 18th Annual Duke Startup Challenge. My name is Sidney McLaurin, and I am a Duke alum, Fuqua, actually, and the environmental school. I graduated in 2017, and I am now general manager of a startup called Limebike in North Carolina.
And my name is Howie Ree. I'm an alum from Fuqua as well, class of 2004, and I work here at Duke, where I've been for the last 10 years, and I run this startup challenge among a couple other things. So we are here tonight because about a year ago, 100 students that had startup ideas decided that they wanted to start in the Duke Startup Challenge. They wrote down their ideas into an idea summary. That idea summary was evaluated by about 800 Duke alumni judges. Those judges helped whittle down 100 teams to about 50 teams. Those 50 teams then were invited to round 2, where they could either make it into the next stage of the Duke Startup Challenge by creating a pitch deck or a business plan that was selected as one of the top businesses by the judges, or they could raise $5,000 in an Indiegogo crowdfunding campaign. Those teams have now gone through a couple more filtering stages, and they are down to the last 7 teams, which we are going to announce right now. Please give a round of applause for each team. Brainbuild.
Flower Child Remedies.
Go Leafe.
kēlaHealth.
LivingLAB.
MedServe.
Ungraded Produce.
Tonight you'll hear from these 7 teams, and you will hear a 5-minute pitch from each of the teams. It will be followed by one question from our panel of judges who will be sitting here behind me. We'll be giving out 2 prizes as well. The first one will be decided by you, the audience, by you using your mobile phone to text us the number of the team that you feel is most deserving of the $1,000 Audience Choice Prize Award. The second prize will be our grand prize, and that prize will be a $50,000 award.
Okay, we'd like to thank our sponsors, General Motors, The Chronicle, Eye Contact, and Citrix ShareFile. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank them for helping make this event possible. Okay, I now have the pleasure of introducing our keynote speaker tonight, Josh Sommer. I'm not going to say a lot about him because he's going to tell you his story, but I will highlight that he was highlighted as ABC News Person of the Year, and he was selected twice to Forbes 30 Under 30 for life sciences and healthcare. Please give a big round of applause to Josh Sommer. Thank you, Thank you, Josh.
Thanks so much, Howie. Good to see everyone. Good evening. Really great to be back here at Duke, and kind of hard to believe that 10 years ago, I was in the same shoes that many of you are in. I was an undergrad here at Duke and had an idea, a passion that I was trying to get off the ground. In my case, it was this startup to try to find a cure for this disease that I had, chordoma. And fortunately, as I'm sure many of you are going to find, Duke turned out to be an incredibly fertile environment for this idea to take root. And now, fast forward 10 years later, it has come to fruition and turned into the Chordoma Foundation, which is now leading an international effort involving patients and doctors and scientists and drug companies to drive forward treatments for this rare cancer. So I thought I'd just give you some highlights of that experience of starting the organization and where we've come in the last 10 years, and hopefully that might provide some ideas or inspiration for those of you who are starting organizations of your own. So the story really starts back in 2006 when I was a freshman here at Duke and was here in Pratt studying environmental engineering, having just a great time, when all of a sudden I started coming down with really severe headaches. And as you can imagine, as you can probably predict, those headaches were not a good sign. They ultimately led to the discovery of a tumor that was situated right in the very center of my head. So if you could imagine drawing a line from ear to ear and back from your nose, right where those 2 lines would intersect, there was a tumor sitting there in what surgeons sometimes call high-value real estate, a really bad place for a tumor to be. So to make a long story short, as you can imagine, this was just earth-shattering for me. It was just a really devastating blow to hear that I had this tumor in my head, and it launched me on this saga to try to get a diagnosis and to try to find an appropriate treatment. So as you can see here, I wound up having surgery to remove the tumor. It was a 10-hour operation. They went through my nose. Thankfully, I came out of the operation with all my senses intact, and they were able to remove the entire tumor, which was great. Unfortunately, it turned out to be this obscure cancer called chordoma, which I'd certainly never heard of, and I'd be very surprised if anyone here has ever heard of it as well. I'd soon find out that this is a disease that you really don't want to have. It's a rare bone cancer. Aside from occurring in the head where mine was, it can occur anywhere along the spine. It affects people of all ages, but the real challenge is that even though I had a successful surgery, even after surgery, the tumor still tends to come back. And eventually, maybe you can have another surgery, maybe you can have radiation, but eventually you exhaust treatment options. You exhaust the ability to have more surgery and radiation. And at that point, there were no effective drugs that could control the tumor. And so as a result, because of that high recurrence rate after surgery and radiation, because there are no effective drug therapies, the average survival at the time was about 7 years, and the overall cure rate was about 20%. So you can imagine being 18 years old at the time and having a lot to look forward to. I really didn't want to accept those statistics. And I became determined to try to do everything in my power to try to change them. And as I imagine many of you would do if you were confronted with a similar situation, my first step was to try to kind of wrap my head around what this challenge was, what this disease was that I was facing. And so I went to Google. Eventually, I went to the medical literature and just started plowing through every article I could find. It didn't look like there was that much happening in the field. There weren't that many papers published on chordoma. It didn't look like there was much work being done to develop better therapies. So it was, at first, a kind of confusing and discouraging endeavor to go and learn about this disease. But I stumbled upon an article that piqued my interest, and I didn't have any idea what it was about, but what piqued my interest was the fact that the lead author, Michael Kelly, happened to be located none other than here at Duke, right in my backyard. So when I got back to campus after having surgery and trying to plug in and find a way to make an impact in this disease that I'd just been diagnosed with, I reached out to Dr. Kelly to try to learn about the work that he was doing, to try to understand the challenges that he might be facing, to try to see if there's some way that I might be able to help. And to make a long story short, Dr. Kelly needed an extra pair of hands in the lab, and so 2 weeks later, I show up, not having ever taken a biology class, not having had any lab experience, and there I am. I'm going to cure chordoma, joining the kēlaHealth. So yeah, I heard some laughs. You're right to laugh. It was a naive assumption. I realized that I had a lot to learn, and so I wound up switching majors. I took molecular biology classes and genetics classes, and really kind of became inspired and fell in love with the work in the lab. But it was a really eye-opening experience for a number of reasons. On the one hand, learning about the advances that were going on in cancer research at the moment, learning about the technologies that we had at our disposal was incredibly energizing and inspiring, and gave me a lot of hope. On the other hand, we were running into a number of challenges in trying to do the experiments that we had set out to take on. For one, we didn't have access to the basic materials that we needed, things like tumor tissue and cell lines in animal models. And not only that, but there were some cell lines that were circulating out there, and one of my first discoveries was, in fact, that 4 out of the 5 cell lines that had been reported turned out to be invalid. So that meant that any work that we did with them would be essentially meaningless and might actually lead us down a wrong path. Aside from not having the materials that we needed, we didn't have enough funding to do the work we wanted to do, and we were working in complete isolation. And so it became clear pretty quickly that in order to really make an impact, there was only so much that one lab could do, and that to really move the needle, it required bringing the expertise of many more labs to bear and creating the conditions for companies to get involved as well. And so to take that on and to solve those problems, in 2007, my mother and I and a handful of other patients and family members from across the country, we got together and started the Chordoma Foundation with a two-pronged mission. First, to improve the lives of those affected by the disease, and secondly, to lead the search for a cure. And the kind of inspiration for the Chordoma Foundation came out of one evening sitting in my dorm at Duke, and starting off, it was very much a kitchen table operation. This was a picture from one of our very first board meetings at the house of one of our board members in Chapel Hill. And there we were. I was an undergrad at Duke. None of us had ever done this before, trying to figure out how do you start an organization to take on this rare cancer for which pretty much nothing was happening. And we realized we were up against a pretty big challenge. As I mentioned, there was just a handful of researchers studying chordoma. At that point, we knew very little about the biology of the disease. There had been one clinical trial that was ever done in chordoma, in all of history, one clinical trial that was ever done, and there were 0 companies working on it. And we learned pretty quickly that getting research going and developing new treatments is a very costly endeavor. So some of you may be familiar, but it takes on average 10 to 15 years and over $1 billion to bring a drug to market. And so we said, oh my gosh, how on earth for this tiny disease that affects maybe 5,000 or 10,000 patients in North America and Europe, how are we going to raise that sort of money? How can we possibly develop a new treatment for this disease? And so that launched this period of exploration. And fortunately, Duke turned out to be a really terrific place to do that. I was able to take a couple semesters of independent study with some of the faculty here that you see, and was able to leverage so many resources across campus here in the business school, the School of Engineering, the medical school, public policy, and learn so much about the ecosystem and really the system in which we operate. Fortunately, what I learned opened some doors. So for one, and this was as a non-biologist certainly news to me, what I didn't realize was that even though cancers can occur in different parts of the body, there can be a lot of shared biology between them, such that a treatment that works for a subset of lung cancer might also work for a subset of breast cancer, might also work for a rare type of kidney cancer. And what that means is that, in fact, many cancer drugs, or the majority of cancer drugs that are developed these days, are actually developed for more than one type of cancer. So that was great. That means we don't necessarily have to develop a drug just for chordoma. Furthermore, it may be the case that there could already be a drug that exists for this disease. There are about 200 cancer drugs on the market already, and at any given time, about 1,000 more that are in development. So it could be the case that we could find one of those that work for chordoma. The other interesting thing that we learned is that there are significant incentives that companies have to develop drugs for rare diseases. They can sometimes get their drug to market faster, sometimes the development costs can be lower. And in fact, many companies have adopted the strategy of intentionally seeking out rare diseases, and in particular rare cancers, to pursue approvals for the drugs that they're developing. So that led us to a hypothesis. We said, all right, given all that, we see potentially 3 paths to get a drug developed for chordoma. Either we find a drug that's already on the market, or we go and find a drug that is not yet on the market but is being developed, and we help make chordoma the path to approval for that drug. Or, depending on where the biology of the disease leads us, we might have to actually develop a new drug de novo. But based on what we learned, what we hypothesized was that if we can sufficiently de-risk the path to market, if we can make it easy enough for a company to potentially get a drug approved for chordoma, that the companies will invest and take it the rest of the way. But even doing that, we reckon would require a lot of investment, and we didn't think that kind of the traditional business as usual model of just raising money and giving it away to researchers was going to cut it. That we couldn't we couldn't possibly move quickly enough, and we couldn't possibly raise enough money using that model. And so we went around and we studied what a number of effective organizations, the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, for example, the Multiple Myeloma Research Foundation, and others had done, and recognized that there was an opportunity to take a much more proactive approach to driving research. An approach that systematically identifies research priorities as opposed to passively waits for researchers to apply to us for funding. A systems-oriented approach that seeks to develop an ecosystem that supports and enables Chordoma research as opposed to just investing in individual projects. Rather than just using grants, which are not always the most efficient mechanism to get research done, employing prizes and in some cases contract research, whatever is most effective to achieve the objective that had been identified as a priority by our scientific advisory board. And then in particular, recognizing that we are a small patient population, unlikely to muster huge amounts of money, trying to be as high leverage as possible and not measuring our success by the amount that we invest, but rather finding ways that we can attract outside sources of capital to invest in Chordoma. So kind of distilling that and operationalizing it, we came up with essentially a 3-point research plan. First, to build and cultivate a vibrant research community. Second, to develop the enabling infrastructure to make their work possible. And third, to strategically and proactively invest in that research. Much like where our finalists are tonight, we were kind of at this inflection point with an idea, but needed a little bit of a boost to be able to to actually put it to the test and get the organization going. And while I did not participate in the Startup Challenge, I was very fortunate to receive seed funding from an analogous organization called Echoing Green, which focuses on social ventures and nonprofits. And this really provided that critical boost at exactly the stage that when we were taking off, that allowed us to essentially catapult and put our ideas into practice. So fast forward 10 years, where have we come? Over the last 10 years, we've built a community of over 300 researchers in 12 different countries, all working together to develop treatments for this disease. We've united this community through 5 international research workshops. We've been able to demonstrate that the community has become increasingly interconnected and that this is leading to new collaborations which are making possible research that would not otherwise get done. We've built an end-to-end research infrastructure, including a biobank to provide tumor tissue, repositories of cell lines and animal models, and a drug screening pipeline that makes it quick and efficient to test drugs in preclinical models to generate the data needed to justify clinical trials. So we set some ambitious goals when we started in 2007, and we've come quite a long way to achieving those goals. We've almost reached the number of tissue samples we've set out to acquire. We've surpassed the number of cell lines. Keep in mind there was only 1 cell line when we started, and we're well on our way to alleviating the scarcity of animal models in the field. Over that time period, we've invested systematically in over 30 labs, a total of $5 million. And to the best of our ability, we estimate that that's leveraged about $20 million in outside funding, whether it be from academia or from industry. All of that has resulted in this huge uptick in research progress. 47 new publications have emerged from it. And what's really exciting is that that's actually leading to new ideas about how to treat the disease. We've identified, and our collaborators have identified, quite a number of promising drug targets for which there are drugs already available that could be repurposed. And one new drug target that is perhaps the most promising, for which there aren't existing drugs, where we are now embarking upon trying to discover drugs that target this new gene, brachyury, which was first associated with cancer in chordoma, but subsequently has been implicated in many other tumor types, in breast cancer and lung cancer and prostate cancer. So we think the market for developing a drug against this target is far larger than chordoma. The challenge that we faced was as ideas and new discoveries started bubbling up out of labs across the world, about 3 or 4 years ago, we started noticing that there was a log jam in actually translating those discoveries into new therapies for patients, getting these therapies out of the lab and into patients. And that critical step was getting them into clinical trials, to actually put them to the test in the clinic. And what we found was that as we were talking with companies and trying to get clinical trials started, there were a number of different obstacles that we faced. But most importantly was simply a disbelief that we could actually bring patients to those trials, that the trials would even be able to attract enough patients to get a result. And that disbelief, that conventional wisdom that running clinical trials in a rare cancer like chordoma was just impossible, was standing in the way of actually translating these discoveries into therapies for patients. And so we took a step back, and we'd always had this two-pronged mission of improving the lives of patients and leading the search for a cure. But as a upstart organization, having limited resources and needing to focus, we really focused primarily on the research side of our mission. But we recognized that we were actually in a very good position to solve that problem, because we were the organization that was the go-to source for information for the patient community. So we made a decision in 2014 to broaden our focus and really to view patient services as not something kind of parallel to research or separate from research, but really inextricably linked with research by providing the resources, the support, the information that patients need and desire throughout their journey with the disease. We are able to connect with those patients and develop relationships over time, so that if and when the need arises for them to participate in a clinical trial, we're not at that point trying to go out and find them, but we've already established that relationship, and there's already trust built. So since 2014, we've connected with and served about 75% of the US patient population. We've provided individualized one-on-one support to over 1,200 patients from the US and 40 other countries. And now when we go to companies or investigators about starting clinical trials, the conversation is very different. We have a compelling data package. We have the preclinical models that are needed to test the drugs. We have an organized and motivated research and physician community. And now we have the organized and mobilized patient community. And so those conversations are going very different. And now over the last several years, that's led to this kind of explosive growth in new clinical trials. So there's 7 clinical trials that are being planned right now, 2 of which have started, 5 more in the works. And we're now partnering with 13 different companies that are investing in chordoma, 6 of which you can see there. So the hypothesis that we started out with, that if we could make chordoma a feasible proposition for companies that they would invest, seems to be panning out, at least initially. So we find ourselves at this very exciting moment. Many seeds have been planted. Many of the obstacles that we once faced, in fact, the obstacles that I was facing when I was working in the lab at Duke, have largely been overcome. We now find ourselves at this incredible moment where we're really, everything has kind of converged in terms of having a motivated patient community, physician community, companies on board. And we are embarking now on a 5-year strategic plan in which we aim to launch 10 clinical trials by 2020 to discover new drugs that target that new target that I was describing, brachyury, to bring the potential of immune therapy to this disease. You may have heard in the news that there's tremendous advances going on in immune therapy. And then to enhance and to expand our patient services to really benefit patients all over the world. Now, all of this is being made possible by a tremendous group of supporters across the world: patients, family members, donors, people doing bike rides and galas and mountain climbs. And it wouldn't be possible without that dedicated community that's come together to make this idea come to fruition. But most importantly, it's made possible by the hard work of our team. I'm so proud of the team that we've developed over the years, some of whom are here tonight. These are really the folks that are making the work possible day to day. And It's an exciting moment because our team is growing. We're very happy to have just hired our first director of research who has a 25-year career in drug discovery, both in industry and more recently as vice president of research at one of our most effective peer organizations. And we're continuing to grow and continuing to hire. So certainly if anyone here is interested in the kind of work that we're doing, would welcome the opportunity to speak. We have internships and a number of positions that we're going to be adding in the coming years. So I'm just so delighted to be back. I'm so looking forward to the pitches tonight. I'm sure that some of you are going to be standing up here giving a keynote in years ahead. And I wish everyone good luck tonight. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Josh. We actually do have time for a few questions here. So if any of you in the audience have any questions for Josh about anything, we welcome you to ask it right now. We'll take about 3 to 5 questions here. So who has a question? Anybody? Yes, on the right.
How are you doing?
Thanks for asking. I'm doing very well. So it's hard to believe, but at 11 years and no sign of recurrence. Thank you.
In the middle.
Yeah.
How do you commercialize that?
Do you mind repeating the question just for
Yeah, so the question is, how do you take something that is so personal and commercialize that and turn it into a pitch that resonates with investors or supporters? So yeah, you're right. At the outset, the motivation was really one of self-preservation. I felt as though I was in a race against time, and this was an urgent personal mission. As time has gone on, the motivation has really evolved. So working in the lab, I caught the bug of science and became just completely enthralled in the scientific problems that we were trying to solve, and that provided, excitement and motivation, and for other scientists was also motivational. As we started connecting with more patients and the foundation expanded into the patient community, many of my closest friends are now other patients and people who have gotten involved in the organization. And so while I'm very thankful to be doing well, unfortunately, many people who I've come to know are not doing as well. And so we see it on a daily basis, the urgent need for better treatments. But then the final thing, the kind of final stage in that progression is what we've realized is that chordoma is not at all unique. There are hundreds and hundreds of rare cancers that are all facing similar challenges, many of which could benefit from the same solutions. And so we view what we're building at the Chordoma Foundation as essentially a kind of a laboratory for how do you do rare cancer research more efficiently and more effectively. And there's some things that we've developed that have already started to be adopted by other organizations. And so that's, seeing the Chordoma Foundation as a model is something that has caught the attention of more philanthropists and larger donors. And because of that, just actually in the last year, we've received $4 million investments, which is really catapulting us to kind of a next level. And largely that's because people see this. Not only are we at this incredible moment for chordoma where it seems like no longer are better treatments a decade away, they're potentially possible within years, but also our success and what we're doing here could potentially lead to insights and models and solutions that could benefit other cancers as well.
A couple more questions. Yes, in the front.
If a big company planning to buy your company, were you willing to sell your company to such kind of big company?
Do you mind repeating that question?
Yeah, so the question is if a big company came along and wanted to buy the organization, would we sell? So as a nonprofit, we're not in a position to sell to a company. However, our hope is that as we begin to identify therapies that target this new target, brachyury, that will lead to intellectual property. And It may be the case that that intellectual property is developed or emerges out of a university that we partner with, but because we now own and control all of the means of research, the tumor tissue, the cell lines, the animal models, we have the ability to actually do research of our own through contract labs. We don't have any wet labs of our own, but we're doing research through contract labs that could lead to discoveries that the Chordoma Foundation would own that could be commercialized. And so we very much see the potential and would welcome the opportunity, if such a technology were to be developed, to license that or to sell it to a company. We hope that we wind up in such a situation.
One last question. Don't be shy. Okay, well, let's give one last big round of applause for Josh. Thank you so much for coming out here. Thank you. Give me a hug. Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
So we'll now invite our judges up to the stage. As they're coming up, we're going to ask our judges to give a short introduction, tell a little bit about themselves, and then they are also going to give a little bit about what they are looking for from each of the teams. And so they will basically give that information as they go to their seats. And so we'll start with Doug Eisner.
Check if it's on.
Hi, my name is Doug Eisner. I'm a 2007 Fuqua graduate. When I was here, I started a company with a Duke biology professor. His name was Philip Benfey. The company was called Grassroots Biotechnology. We ran the company, moved it to downtown Durham, and built it with our great team, and eventually sold the company to Monsanto. That was in 2013. Since then, I have been working with tech startups in addition to starting two of my own companies. I'm really focused around university research, commercializing IP. Before attending Fuqua, I was a lawyer. I practiced law for 13 years in New York City, first as a prosecutor in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, and then as a commercial litigator. The things that I'm looking for today is a really strong statement of market need, a problem that the company is solving. In addition, a solution to that problem, a really good solution. And then finally, I want to see that they can demonstrate that there is a competitive advantage to the solution that they're providing.
Thank you, Doug. Next up, we'll have Ezra Kuchars.
Hi, I'm Ezra Kuchars. I'm a 1997 graduate of the graduate school, and I've spent probably the last 20 plus years in the entertainment and media business. Currently, I'm the entrepreneur in residence for the Innovation and Entrepreneurship program. I do a ton of seed investing and advising of startups, and today we're just looking for a great idea that looks like there's some commitment and it's going to scale.
Next up, we'll have Giles Shee.
Good evening. My name is Giles Shee. I'm CEO of BioResource International. It's a biotech company based in RTP. I'm a 2005 Fuqua alum, and really glad to be back here today. What I'm looking for tonight is that spark, that energy, that drive, because it takes a lot of courage and dedication and grit to make a company successful. So I'm looking for those people that have that drive and that grit tonight.
Thank you, Giles. Next up, we'll have Tatiana Bergeson.
Hi, my name is Tatiana Bergeson. I'm the founder and CEO of Mati Energy. I started it out of my dorm room 5 years ago on Central Campus. Yes, at Duke. And if you haven't had Mati, give it a try. We love Duke students and we love to energize you guys. What I'm looking for is traction.
Thank you, Tatiana. Next up, we'll have Karen Levert.
Hello, everyone. I'm Karen Levert. I've been a judge for several years. Happy to be back. I have a couple of companies that have really focused on university research. So there's tremendous research going on in universities, and so we look to see what's most promising, and then partner with the university to further develop that into a company. And so we're basically a spin out of Duke University. So some years ago, the first technologies came from Duke. So happy to be here. And what I'm looking for is passion, one, and two, I love looking at technologies, but ones that really make an impact and will be sustainable in the marketplace.
Thank you, Karen. Next up, we'll have Christy Schaefer.
Good evening, everyone. It's great to be here at Duke. I am a general partner at Hatteras Venture Partners, which is a North Carolina-based venture fund. We have about $450 million under management. We also help manage the first ever North Carolina Venture Multiplier Fund. And Mati was one of our first investments, so we're very happy to see Tatiana here. What I'm looking for is really to feel inspired. And I've intentionally used the word feel. And that is because most people don't remember what others say to them. They remember how someone made them feel. So that's what I'm looking for. I know that is a bit nebulous, but I think that's very important. I work with a lot of startup companies. I was part of a startup company myself that went public, and I was CEO, and I enjoy working with a lot of academic institutions now in my day job running the seed stage part of Hatteras called Hatteras Discovery.
Thank you, Christy. Next up, we'll invite Josh back up.
Well, I won't reintroduce myself, but what I'm going to be looking for tonight is fire in the belly and a sense of hunger. It is the case that probably in any venture there's going to be ups and downs, and it really requires that passion, that hunger to sustain you through those ups and downs and keep you going when you might get knocked down. So that's what I'm looking for tonight.
Thanks, Josh. And finally, we'll have Jake Stout.
Everyone, I'm the CEO and founder of NeuroPlus. We make brain-controlled video games to help kids and adults with ADHD. I was a Duke student, class of 2013, and tonight I'm going to be looking for commitment. I want to see that you have what it takes and the energy and passion to see it through for the long haul.
Let's give a round of applause to all of our judges. And now we are going to go into our presentations. And what I would love is if we could give a lot of positive Duke energy to each of our 7 presenters tonight. So when they come on stage, as I announce them, I hope that you will clap very loudly and give them really good vibes, okay? So here we go. We are going to start it off with Brainbuild.
Thank you so much, Howie. Thank you all for coming. My name is Joe Lamb, and I'm the founder and CEO of Brainbuild. Over the last year and a half, we've automated the process of scheduling the most optimal meals and snacks right into your calendar, just like a registered dietitian. To date, we've helped hundreds of people from over 90 organizations, scheduled over 1 million hours, and we're starting pilots in professional sports, the NBA, WNBA, and US Olympic teams. But let me take a big step back and tell you all just why I started this company. And the woman on the left is my lovely mother. She is a borderline diabetic who has to take medication every day to manage her blood sugar. And unfortunately, she worries about every single thing that she eats, every time that she eats. On the right is my dad. He works night shifts just to make an extra nickel a night and to feed our family. And he struggles with not only his weight, but his energy levels all throughout the night. And then there's me. I was an athlete with big dreams, and what I realized, I learned the hard way that unfortunately to be successful, to be at my best, I had to do almost what was too obvious. I had to eat well, sleep enough, and hydrate properly. It sounds simple. The problem is, these were all habits that I had to make, at my own time, on my own, and I didn't have time. I didn't have any coaches who could possibly follow me throughout the day 24/7, and that'd be kind of scary. But what that meant is my mother not knowing, or my mother struggling and agonizing over the fact that her blood sugar skyrockets every time she eats. And she didn't know how to manage that so that she could not have to worry. And my dad, he didn't know what times he had to eat throughout the night so that he could just make it through, have enough energy, and not come home starving and overeat. And I think we all, as former college students, know how that feels. And as it turns out, my dad isn't the only one with a crazy schedule. We all do. And we're all high achievers here at Duke who just want to pack more and more into our schedules every day. And we don't have the time to go and schedule in your meals, schedule in your snacks, pass it by a dietitian to make sure it's good for you. And that's what Brainbuild does, all automatically in under a second. We started in athletics because dietitians, the only people who were able to do stuff like that, they had to take care of hundreds, if not thousands of athletes all at once. And our testimonials show that the impact of our experience truly changes people's behavior and makes their lives easier. We help these athletes who suffer from the same chronic conditions that we do feel better about their workouts, have more energy throughout the day, recover from injury faster, and in general, alleviate their mental and physical exhaustion. Over the last year and a half, we gathered veteran dietitians from every sport, every major sport, and health industry, and a whole team of athletes, engineers, artificial intelligence experts to bring this automation technology into everyone's pocket. And today we have an iOS and Android app that you can all download. It takes your schedule, your calendar events, and each time you change something in the app, it automatically readjusts. And we send push notifications right to you to guide you through the day. It's as simple as that. And although we've sent out more than 200,000 notifications already, we have a long way to go. The $50,000 from the Duke Startup Challenge will give us an additional 1,500 hours of development to build out features, ramp up our machine learning, to learn more from each person, manage their preferences, and even send them food. At the end of the day, it comes down to this. It's that this black box of dietetics needs to be opened up to the world so that they can help the millions of people just like my mom and dad to live happier, healthier, easier lives. Thank you all so much for listening.
So now I have one question from our judges.
Thank you. That was good. I have a nephew that's a professional basketball player, so I get this. So how do you make money?
So we sell to universities right now and professional teams, either $10, $15, or $20 per athlete per month. And currently, we're selling B2B, but we're hoping to open up this corporate channel, these professional teams, as it turns out. These dietitians, they want to impact not only the athletes, but all the employees, the hundreds, if not thousands of employees at each of those institutions that also need help, but have never have access to that.
So you charge by athlete?
Per athlete per month. So an average contract value for a university right now will be $3,000 per team, and will be around $10,000 to $15,000 currently in our initial pilots for professional teams.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Let's give him a round of applause.
I think it went pretty well. I would say this is the most comfortable pitch I've had so far. That again, not my strong suit, but after really digging down and finding all the reasons, that remembering why I started this company and why the story about my parents matters so much,
It just all makes it so much easier when you're sharing something so personal.
Okay, and a big round of applause for Flower Child Remedies.
Hi, my name is Tiana Horn, and I'm the CEO of Flower Child Remedies. I would like to start by thanking the Duke and Durham entrepreneurship communities for helping us grow our company so far. Flower Child Remedies is an all-natural hair care company that believes in natural, simple, and pure ingredients for our products. We don't believe in putting anything into your hair that you wouldn't feel safe putting into your body. 3 years ago, I cut off all of my hair because, like millions of other men and women, I was using hair care products that caused unknown damage to my hair. This damage ranged from making my hair dry and brittle to actually breaking down my hair's DNA bonds. We've surveyed 300 people within our target market and found that they were also facing some of these same problems. Other products contained harsh chemicals, were too expensive, or didn't cater to their hair-specific needs. 80% of the people we surveyed said they preferred products with natural ingredients. Our solution is a line of hair care products that are natural, safe to use, and even customizable. At the beginning of the summer, we had a lone product, a hair moisturizer made with cocoa butter and shea butter that, to our surprise, also works great on skin. Since then, we've developed a hair gel, a curling cream, and have also began rolling out branded merchandise such as hair picks or combs. Our customers love it. After a single use, they're able to see a difference in their hair's health and the way it looks. Our customers love the way their hair looks, smells, and the way it feels, even how long our products last. We've even gone a step further to cater to our hair care products customers' specific needs by creating customizable products. If you go to our website, you can take a survey to select your hair's texture, the improvements you like to see, and the problems that you currently face with your hair to create your own customized deep conditioner. In the future, we hope to expand this customization by even making custom pricing based on the income level where the product is bought, as well as the customer's gender and race. Our target market is the same market that created the first self-made female millionaire, the Black hair care industry. Black women on average spend 9 times more on their hair than any other race. 72% of the people we interviewed said that they use their hair care products every day. 40% of those people spend $15 or more in a month on hair care. Our cheapest product, hair care product, costs $1.53 to make, and our most expensive one costs $3.61. We make our merchandise for less than $1. If we can capture even 1% of this market, we'll have a multi-million-dollar company. Our team is made up of 2 New Jersey natives who have relocated to Durham. I graduated from Duke last year, but while in undergrad, I worked at a startup in American Underground and also was a part of the Melissa and Doug Entrepreneurs Program. My cousin is finishing up her senior year at Rider University, where she is learning valuable business and marketing skills. We've sold over 500 units of product through in-person and online sales. We've also experienced great social media exposure by being featured on Natural Hair Mag, a page with over 1 million followers, and receiving 18,000 views on one of our videos. All of our progress so far has been made through online and in-person sales, and last month we recently got into our first retail location. While researching potential retail locations, I realized that a lot of stores like Walmart and Target actually have supplier diversity programs. The winnings from tonight's challenge could help us create enough inventory to complete purchase orders, as well as produce quality marketing, get preservation and stability testing, which will then allow us to complete clinical trials to validate our product's effectiveness, as well as improve our branding and make our custom pricing software. Thank you.
Great presentation. You mentioned that you have $15,000 in the marketing budget. So can you break that down? Tell us what you're going to use that for, how you're going to market the product.
Okay, so for the past 2 years, I've been mentored by some of the greatest minds in marketing who are Duke alum, and my cousin has also spent her time studying marketing at her university. We plan to spend that budget through online campaigns such as Google AdWords, Facebook campaigns, as well as Instagram campaigns by reaching out to influencers to share our product on their pages.
Thank you so much, Tiana. Let's give her a big round of applause.
I think it went well. I was really nervous, but I'm happy it's over and I'm happy that I had the experience. Our passion is making natural products that are safe to use. We don't believe in putting anything into your hair that you wouldn't feel safe putting into your body, and we hope to give our customers the absolute best products possible.
Next up is Leafe. Let's give her a big round of applause for Leafe.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Arsheen Alam, and I've got a background in material science and engineering from NC State University, and I'm currently pursuing my MBA here at Fuqua. My partner, Megan, also getting her MBA here, has over 10 years of experience of new product innovation at 3M, and today I'm going to talk to you about Leafe. Leafe produces graphene, and graphene is nothing but a single layer atom of carbon. However, at this atomic level, graphene has got remarkable properties, which has got scientists all over the world calling it the wonder material of our time. Just to name a few, graphene is 1 million times thinner and 1,000 times lighter than paper. Yet, it's 200 times stronger than structural steel and 1,000 times more conductive than copper. The two scientists that first discovered graphene were awarded the Nobel Prize due to its sheer versatility and mass potential. To give you a few examples of the potential across many industries, due to its thinness and transparency, it makes an ideal candidate for flexible touchscreen. Apple, Samsung, and Nokia are all looking at this application. Also, due to its high tensile strength, MIT researchers have said it is the best possible water desalination membrane. Furthermore, Tesla has been working under wraps on a graphene-based battery, which could double their mileage range of their vehicles due to its electron mobility being 200 times that of silicon. Why don't we see graphene everywhere? Because under current production methods, it's way too expensive. It's one of the most expensive materials on Earth today. Up to $2,000 per gram is being charged. Leafe has developed a patent-protected proprietary process to produce graphene. In a nutshell, other people producing graphene start with a very carbon-dense starting material such as coal, and it takes very strong, heavy machinery and strong chemicals and acids to tear apart single layers of carbon from this. Leafe's process starts with a much less dense material, such as wood, and through mild chemical processes, we're able to break apart single layers of carbon. More importantly, this process is scalable. We can currently produce 1 kilogram per month, and to put that in perspective, that's enough graphene for 250,000 smartphone screens, and we plan to double that capacity by the end of this year. Our process is safe for the environment, and we already have interested customers and distributors we've talked to. And we do all of this at cost 10 times cheaper than our competition. The graphene market is growing very rapidly. In just 2 years, by 2020, it's looking at a 188% CAGR and reaching a potential market size of $310 million. Leafe believes we are $205 million of this is our addressable market. And we plan to capture it through a very simple business model, which is through selling to distributors of advanced materials and through application partnerships, which will be in the form of revenue sharing agreements and long-term contracts. We also project to be able to produce 50 kilograms of graphene per month by 2020. At an average cost price of $300 per gram, that's $180 million in revenue. Just to give you a few customers we've spoken to, Canadian Clear is an application partner, and they said they give us our word. If we can make Leafe's graphene happen, they will make all of their essential services adopted. Secondly, there's Keynote Technology, which is an advanced materials distributor, and they are ready and dedicated to using their worldwide sales network to get our graphene to the market. The Leafe team consists of Megan and I. Dr. Sarkar, our CTO and co-founder and renowned chemistry professor from IIT Kanpur. We've got a team of scientists and operations personnel in India. And finally, we have Dr. Petrenka, our strategy advisor and dean here at Fuqua. This has been years of R&D in the making, and we have so far been able to do all of this without diluting our equity. If we are so honored to win the Duke Startup Challenge today, we'll put over half of that money into ramping up our production to doubling the capacity to 2 kilograms per month. We'll spend $7,500 towards graphene uniformity testing to ensure consistent quality patches. $7,000 will go towards traveling and marketing. And finally, the remainder will go towards accounting and legal fees. Thank you so much.
That's a very interesting technology. Wondering what would be your first target market? You mentioned a lot of different applications. What do you think you have the best chance to get into and penetrate?
So right now we produce the raw material. So the quickest way for us to monetize our product would be to sell that material to distributors of advanced materials.
Any particular vertical, any particular industry?
So one of our distributors that we're speaking to are big in the aerospace and defense industries, and the second one are big in energy and water.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm an engineer, so I'm a nerd at heart, and graphene has such a great potential, and it was disappointing that because of its high cost, it's not making it to market. So I was like, I need to find a better way to make this material that could revolutionize so many industries. And so that's how I set out to figure out a new way to produce graphene. I think it went fantastic. I did the best I could. I practiced, and I'm just glad we did it.
Hey, let's give a big round of applause. Next up is kēlaHealth.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. My name is Bora Chang. I'm a Duke-trained physician and co-founder and CEO of kēlaHealth. The way we've practiced medicine for centuries has been to treat patients when they're sick. But 2 years ago, a team of Duke surgeons, statisticians, and engineers asked ourselves, what if we could flip that paradigm around? What if we could instead predict who our sickest patients would be and do something about that proactively? What we built is kēlaHealth, an application that does just that in surgery. So in clinic, the way we assess patients today is mainly based on our gut feeling. Should I take this patient to surgery or should I not? And it tends to be a quick thumbs up, thumbs down decision. And I've seen these gut feelings go wrong. We have patients who come back to us with complications, and some of those patients don't leave because of those complications. Medicine is an imperfect science. And as high of risks as patients are taking to be in our care, we have to do a better job of knowing what the risks exactly are and what we can do about it to prevent them from happening. So there are 51 million surgeries done in the US every year. And with a 15% complication rate, that means millions of patients are getting complications at about $12,000 per complication. This is raising hospital costs to about 5 times the amount they should be. And yet, we know that half of these complications are avoidable. So the US is spending $45 billion alone on avoidable complications. kēlaHealth uses machine learning to predict whether a surgical complication will happen or not before it happens. And we're able to tell our surgeons which of the interventions are going to be most high impact for those patients based on that risk. By doing this, we're able to actually decrease complications and improve the quality of care that we provide. So the way it works in our hospitals today is that we have a group of patients who come to us with a mixed bag of high and low risk. And we don't do a good job of actually knowing who the high-risk patients are versus the low-risk patients. So we tend to blanket all of the same surgical interventions for all of them. This is a low-efficiency, high-cost model. But as we're moving toward precision medicine, with kēlaHealth, we're able to risk stratify our low-risk patients from our high-risk patients, reduce the unnecessary interventions that we're doing for our low-risk patients, and really target our high-impact interventions to those that we're most worried about. This creates tailored treatments, reduces costs, and improves patient care down the line. And we know that this prediction engine works because we actually did the training and validation of these models on over 4 million patient records. This produced a very good average national model. However, we know that Duke Hospital looks very different than our neighbors down the road at UNC, which looks very different than Stanford Hospital across the country. So we started using a new method called fine-tuning that takes the national model and hones it and trains an individualized model per hospital, giving more accurate predictions for each hospital setting. When we did this in an IRB study at Duke, we actually were able to increase our accuracies up to 20% for all of our outcomes. And these are our performance metrics. So based on the area under the curve, which is how we measure how accurate our prediction models are, we fall between a great to excellent range. And this is compared to many of the prediction equations that we currently use in clinic. We're outperforming many of these other prediction models. And in addition, doctors don't have to type in all of the variables into these equations. Because we're integrated right within the EHR, we're able to automatically pull up an individual profile for each patient. The doctor can assess the patient, see their profile, see their risk, and be able to order interventions directly from our application. So our team is an interdisciplinary mix of surgeons, clinicians who are leaders in the health system and the broader surgical network. We also have experts in applied machine learning, as well as entrepreneurs with a record of success. So we are uniquely positioned to build the solution for this problem. We've been able to accomplish a lot in a short amount of time. We've been funded by the Duke Institute for Health Innovation through research. And we've produced 5 scientific papers and presented at national conferences, and also finished a pilot. We have an NSF grant and also been selected to be a health box company. Recently, we closed a partnership with a large surgical device manufacturer. Okay, no worries. We can do a lot with 50K.
So what's the current state of the product and what's your timeline look like for commercialization, building this, getting this out there?
Yeah, so we are finishing building the enterprise-facing solution. We're actually in early negotiations with Duke Hospital to integrate and install into all 3 of Duke's hospitals.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, I just want to thank Duke INE and the Duke Startup Challenge for giving us the opportunity to present today. 5 minutes is a short time, but we're happy to be here and have the support of the Duke community. As a doctor myself, I really believe in this technology, that this is really the way medicine should move towards in the future, and I think we'll get there soon.
And let's give a big round of applause for LivingLAB.
Thank you very much, Howie. So my name is Mitchell Gorecki, and I am here to present LivingLAB. So a little bit about myself. I am a 2013 Duke alum. I studied biomedical engineering, mechanical engineering, economics, and finance. I worked at a startup that was able to go public in about 4 years, and I am now a second-year MBA student at Duke. And I'm here to talk about LivingLAB. So I'm going to tell you this in context of a story. About 3 years ago, I was renting this property. It cost me $950 a month, and I was struggling to make the payments on it. So you do the logical thing. You post on Craigslist looking for roommates, but when you do that for $316 in Durham, you get a huge number of responses. So I interviewed 10, let them go into a bidding war, and I wound up with 3 guys willing to pay me $900 a month on a property that cost me $950. So I'm going, wait a minute, I'm getting $2,700, it's costing me $950, and I don't even own it. I want more. How do I do this? And so it really gets into the problem. Renting property with roommates is miserable. You can't trust people, you don't know anyone, the market's constantly changing, and how are you going to find a group, balance costs and the actual preferences for location and timing? Well, this is where LivingLAB comes in. We are a platform for creating and managing co-living contracts. So that mess you just saw, we're able to match people through time as the market changes into efficient groups that maximizes everybody's living arrangement. So how in the world does this work? I am going to hopefully get a demonstration of this on an iOS device here. So this is our platform. You're presented with a property, with a bedroom at a price, and a couple of roommates here. And so you can peek in and take a little bit of a look around. You can look about other people, and maybe you say, this house just isn't for me. So we all know Tinder. There it is. So you keep going. You go, yeah, I like this combination. No, not Adam. Not Lynn. And what do you know? We have our CTO and our COO. Yes, I would live with these guys. And so here you go. We've matched. So we view our matches. We can communicate with them and eventually confirm on that page and apply together. This is what we are offering at LivingLAB. So how do we make money doing this? We essentially are charging a fee for the value that we create. So here's an example. You have a house and it rents for $1,000 a month. No individual can afford that represented by the red boxes, but together they represent a $1,500 payment, which is a premium on that rental contract. LivingLAB splits that premium with the landlord at the rate of 15%. And that allows us to collect $225 on this contract. Can we actually do it though? Well, so we ran a pilot. We did 13 homes, we spoke to 220 people, matching 42 of them, and collecting over 500 payments for $250,000 in rent. Didn't take more than 48 hours for any of these bedrooms to clear. We saw a consistent 48% increase in the rent of those properties, resulting in a $2,000 profit per tenant, working out to about $37,000. My favorite part is the testimonials and what people had to say. This is the easiest move. Why is this not everywhere? I owe you a beer. And my personal favorite was, how do I wire you money to secure my spot at LivingLAB? So is this unique, or is there a true market for this? So we'll take a look. There are 44 million homes in the US, 56 million people who qualify, and 1 in 3 who are already sharing rental properties, working out to about a $40 billion profit market for LivingLAB. But I hate top-down analyses like this. So let's just look at the Duke Graduate School population and the senior year undergraduate class, matching these 7,000 people to the tune of 70% of them requesting roommates is $10 million a year. So that's what I really want to get into, is how we're going to use $50,000 if given the opportunity. And that's to get to our next value point. So here's our summer. My summer started with selling my car for liquidity, so that way I could afford the summer. And then our CTO moved into an attic to reduce our burn rate. And then I rented out my own home, so that way we could really get under the wire. And at a clutch moment at the end of the day, we had a $20,000 grant to cover our costs and move back into my house. But we know, despite all of this progress in 3 months this summer, we're going to run out of money. Even though we have the benchmarks and the promises to reach the next 2 goals you see there, we're going to have to continue to raise funds. But with the grant money from the Startup Challenge, we feel we will be able to achieve that goal and hit those value-setting markers, collecting on those grants and VC dollars. So thank you very much, and I'll take any questions.
I thought it went phenomenally well. I thought the crowd was really receptive, and I'm just very happy we met our timeline. It was born out of a little bit of a need to be able to afford housing, and then a realization of how much fun I had meeting really awesome people and helping them find affordable living arrangements. And from there, it just took off.
Okay, let's give a big round of applause for MedServe.
Thanks, Howie. Hi, everyone. My name's Patrick O'Shea. I'm a 2017 Fuqua grad, a combined internal medicine and pediatrics resident, and the co-founder of MedServe, which is a 2-year service learning program in rural and underserved primary care. Think of it as a Teach for America for healthcare. MedServe provides immediate human capital to low-resource communities across our state, and also introduces young people to primary care, some of which we have here tonight. Long term, inspiring this next generation of primary care physicians saves lives because each additional physician that we have in these communities reduces mortality. I'm a case study in why we need a program like this. So I graduated with honors in 2008. I applied to medical school and, perhaps like many of you in the room, was soundly rejected. Thankfully, I was also accepted to Teach for America, where I taught 8th grade science in Henderson, North Carolina. I taught there for 3 years, but I knew my heart was in medicine. I wanted to continue to serve that community, but do so through healthcare. So I applied again, and you guessed it, I was rejected again. But I didn't give up. I met with the admissions committee, and I said, what do I need to do? They said, your commitment to service is admirable, but we want to see you do it in healthcare. So I measured up. I got my CNA license, and I applied to all the local practices. And I didn't hear back. The one place that I did hear back from was the local dermatology clinic, and it's not exactly service. Sorry for the skin folks out there. I would have loved to be connected with one of the clinics that we place our fellows at, but there simply wasn't a pathway to facilitate that type of connection. And my experience isn't uncommon. For undergraduates, it's incredibly difficult to get an active job in healthcare. But I persisted and made it through. I'll be a general med-peds physician in 4 years. But many of my peers won't. Only 12% of my peers will go into primary care fields. There needs to be better ways to connect those high-energy individuals, recent college grads, with the communities that need them the most. And there's a real urgency to that, because if we don't, that primary care shortage that we're experiencing is only going to widen over the next 20, 30, 40 years. So let's say MedServe existed. I might be connected with Dr. Bill Dennis, who's a physician actually up in Henderson. I would serve the same students that I served in the classroom, and I would be working as a CNA, just the same, active clinical experience. I would also be extending into the community to reach out and provide some of the services into the community on the street that I wanted to. MedServe would play a role by providing an initial 2-week training institute and then longitudinally providing professional development to ensure that I was able to fulfill my ultimate long-term grad school aspirations. So after a year on the ground, we see that MedServe is impacting these communities today. Our fellows have increased clinic capacity by more than 60 patients per month, and over the course of the first year have served more than 30,000 patients, a number that we are incredibly proud of. Our fellows save other clinic staff 15 to 20 hours per week, allowing them to work at the top of their licensure while our entry-level students are giving high-quality primary care. Our fellows also extend out into the community in ways that are not necessarily captured yet by RVUs, but will be better prepared as we shift into a value-based healthcare system. I'm excited about that, but I'm also excited about the promise of our fellows' careers tomorrow as they turn towards their medical school applications. You can see some of their thoughts right here. So our business model, we are a nonprofit organization, and our business model is really a cost-sharing model with the clinics and philanthropic partners. During our first year, that division was really 50%, 50-50. So our clinics paid for half of the $25,000 cost of our fellows, and we contributed the other side with corporate, government, and other philanthropic donations. We've been able to shift that to almost 3/4 as we look towards our second year and continue to expand our footprint. Most service year organizations take 2 years to start up, but we started in 1 in 2015 because we saw the need. Clinics, we had enough clinics to form a wait list, and we had enough interest from fellows that we had a 15% acceptance rate in our first class and a 12% acceptance rate this past year. We established our first goal to have students across North Carolina in 2016, and we've deepened our footprint this year in 2017 with our second class. We've also established our first health system partnership, and I've got exciting news as we look forward. We were recently awarded a $1 million grant with North Carolina AHEC to triple our program size each year for the next 4 years. We've got expertise to grow with new hires and 5.5 FTEs. We've also excited to think about our financial sustainability with AmeriCorps and healthcare systems. Thanks.
you tell us why you think you should be the winner of tonight's $50,000, given that you just got $1 million grant?
That's a great question, and I would have had the additional 30 seconds. So while that $1 million grant, it covers 100% of our operational expenses, this $50,000 I think uniquely positions us to make strategic investments as we think about both the marketing and development for our organization, as we think about expanding within the state, within healthcare system partnerships, and then looking beyond the borders of North Carolina. Thank you.
I think it went well. You know, I was able to tell our story, I think, in a compelling way, communicate some of the successes that we've had and, you know, some of the hurdles that I and we have had in MedServe. So I'm excited. I left it out there.
Okay, give a big round of applause for Ungraded Produce.
Hi, everyone. My name is Courtney Bell, and I'm the president and co-founder of Ungraded Produce, a produce delivery service that fights food waste and addresses food accessibility issues. We're actually making our first delivery. We made our first delivery back in September of last year, so we're approaching our first birthday, but we have quadrupled in growth since we rolled out our general launch in May. Right now, we have 270 customers. We do $7,000 in monthly sales, and we have rescued 8,000 pounds of produce to date from landfills. I'd like to tell you a little bit about how we've reached this point. So Ungraded Produce exists to address major inefficiencies in the farm-to-consumer pipeline. Every year, 52% of the fruits and vegetables grown in America get left in the field or diverted to landfills, oftentimes just because they're in excess or ugly, meaning that they're atypically sized, shaped, or colored, but otherwise have no quality issues and they're perfect to eat. But meanwhile, there is a huge demand for low-cost, high-quality produce, and over 40 million Americans lack access to a convenient and affordable source. So what started as the effort of two sorority sisters to address food waste and food insecurity soon evolved into a business. Early on, my business partner and I met with many farmers and determined that we could connect consumers with a supply of underutilized, ugly, and excess produce in a for-profit model. This discovery motivated us to start Ungraded Produce our junior year at Duke. Ungraded Produce is a subscription-based produce delivery service with an unconventional sourcing model. Our customers sign up for a subscription online, select one of our 7 different boxes, and then receive home deliveries of fresh produce every week or every other week at a discount. Because we're sourcing ugly and excess products that would otherwise go unsold, we have determined that we can help the average American household save between $160 and $290 per year on their produce. Plus, our customers can have a feel-good experience for helping the environment. We took the recent contents of one of our 15-pound mixed produce boxes, that's 10 pounds of veggies, 5 pounds of fruit, and we compared our price with that of Harris Teeter and determined that ours was 32% lower than the Harris Teeter alternative. But in addition to our prices, our customers love that our produce has character, that we've revolutionized their grocery shopping experience, and that we are providing them with an easy way to participate in the fight against food waste. And you can't put a price on that feeling. So today, consumers are seeking out the most convenient options on the market. For that reason, online grocery delivery services such as Instacart are projected to capture 20% of the market in the next decade. And because people still want home-cooked meals, Blue Apron and other meal kit delivery services have dramatically increased their presence. As the food delivery service industry is constantly innovating and growing, consumers are looking to also reap the benefits when they buy their produce. And I'm happy to report that Ungraded Produce is here to deliver to that demand. In addition to being a cost-effective and convenient option, we are delivering the fresh produce needed as the foundation of home-cooked meals and providing our customers with weekly information about where their food is sourced from. As for our customers, we have identified several markets that are currently not having their needs or concerns fully met. First, we plan to target college students. There are 55,000 undergraduates attending the 4 largest Triangle universities alone. In 1 week, we were able to generate over 100 Duke University student signups by posting on 4 university Facebook pages, and we plan to continue to pursue this cost-free marketing strategy at other schools. We have had great success with young professionals and families. 75% of our growth this summer came through word-of-mouth referrals from this group. And we are also very excited to take our next step by marketing our services to the 300,000 Triangle residents that regularly attend church. Coordinating Sunday drop-offs to the churches for their members is an effective strategy for us to reach this very large but under-tapped network while also increasing our bulk density drop-off opportunities to cut transportation costs. So the Ungraded team currently consists of myself and my business partner, Anya. We currently handle all of the daily tasks, including pickups and packaging and planning, but have recently hired some part-time help to assist with packaging and on and off campus deliveries. So to recap, we have 270 customers in 7 Triangle cities, do $7,000 in monthly sales, and have diverted 8,000 pounds of produce from going to waste. So we have grown our business with remarkably little capital investment, but have reached the stage of growth where any significant expansion will definitely require outside funding. We can't keep up with our demand, but with $50,000, we'll be able to invest in improved e-commerce and delivery software to automate logistics, invest in capital to scale, and hire more help to be able to accommodate for up to 1,000 subscribers. With our time freed up, we'll be able to pursue more marketing and expansion efforts. If we can make this model successful in the Triangle, we believe that we can help make produce accessible for people throughout the state, region, and eventually the country. Thanks.
Really exciting concept. You've sold me. I'll sign up. How do you expand from the millennials and the college students and the churches to the food insecure?
Yes, so we do have plans to apply to become eligible to accept SNAP, and also for college students, because this is kind of, a food desert in its own way, food points in the future. One of the great things about us trying to partner with churches is that we aren't able to accept food stamps by taking payments online. But if we set up the stand for the members to come pick up, any food insecure members at the churches will be able to pay for their box in person using the SNAP benefits.
I was pretty happy with how it went. I stumbled on the first intro line like I expected, but otherwise I think things went smoothly. I came into Duke knowing I wanted to pursue environmental science with a sustainable food focus. I was always that weird girl in high school reading like Michael Pollan food politics books on the beach. So I came from a background of really being passionate about finding ways to reduce our impact through responsible consumption. My business partner came from an behavioral economics standpoint, but she had some internship experiences that allowed her to learn about the severity of food insecurity and the demand for produce in food insecure neighborhoods. So she reached out to me, we put our brains together, and we kind of ran from there.
Okay, so here's what's happening now. The judges are going to deliberate for about 15 minutes, and they're going to come back and we're going to announce the winner here on stage. We do have a bunch of other awards for the Duke Startup Challenge. This will just take a couple minutes here. I'm not going to announce all of them tonight, but I'm going to announce a few. First of all, our alumni prize goes to Enerve, Ranjith Babu, and Akshita Iyer. So basically, they raised $170,000 on a Kickstarter. What it is if you've ever left your stove on at home, they have a device that attaches to your stove knobs, and there's a heat sensor above, and it'll automatically turn off your stove if it's been left on, say, for an hour or a few hours. So that is their idea. The next thing is the Clean Energy Prize. This is given by the Duke University Energy Initiative Pearl Converter. This is an MBA student, Chris, and a professor, Stefan. Basically, they've come up with a hardware device that more efficiently transfers energy between alternating current and direct current, which is a very important thing to do. So congratulations to them, $10,000. Next up is Sam Fox. Sam won the Biomedical Engineering Prize. He is working on a solution to transfer patients. Okay, just a couple more things here. So this past year, my friend and double Duke alum Rashid Wiggins passed away unexpectedly. His widow, who is also a Duke alum, gave a prize to entrepreneurs who kind of live in the spirit that Rashid did. So this year, and Tiana, are you here? Tiana, this is her first time knowing about it. Tiana, congratulations, you're the first winner of the Rashid A. Wiggins Entrepreneur Prize. Okay, we're gonna wait for feedback from judges. We've got probably about 7 minutes. Talk amongst yourselves. We'll be back with you in 7 minutes. All right. Come on. Okay, so here's what happens now. Before we announce the winner, each of the teams gets feedback from one judge. So the first team that's going to get feedback is going to be, I think, Brainbuild. We'll just go in alphabetical order. Brainbuild. And here you go, Jake. I'll give you mic number 2.
Joe, great pitch, good job. We were really interested in this field. The idea of automating nutrition scheduling is really powerful. We were a little thrown off by the two focuses, the kind of the general population and then the athletes. We like the story about your parents, is a really powerful story, but wanted to see some focus there and then more information on customers, on growth, and kind of what the revenue looks like, things like that. But overall, great pitch, well done.
Great. Next up, Flower Child. Who is giving the feedback? Okay.
Good job. So I'll give you feedback first on growth opportunities. So from a judge's standpoint, we wanted to see a little more focus, and we were a little curious about the distribution model. And then also, there was a little bit of concern when you said you need to work on stability. So that's not unusual, though. And so the big pluses, though, it's a niche market, but powerful. I understand that. The other, we really appreciated that you have sold product already, and we wish you the best.
Great. Go Leafe.
Sure.
Why don't you step out if you don't mind?
So, Ashid, I think you've got a really interesting technology there. I think the group was thinking that it'd be good to get a proof of concept, in a particular vertical, and show that we believe that it could be transformative, the kind of technology you talk about in terms of costs. But we want to probably see some proof, even if it's a small proof of concept. You get some company to be behind it. I think you've got a bright future ahead.
Okay, thank you. kēlaHealth, Bora.
You have a great idea. We really like the idea. I know that Hatteras has been talking to you. That's great. I think the whole machine learning field is huge. And I think the fact that you've done a pilot clinical trial is very, very good and very exciting. We look forward to seeing what's to come for your company. I think, unfortunately, because you went a little long, we didn't quite get to hear what you could use the $50,000 for in moving forward. And you talked a little bit, I think, about maybe licensing the technology or working on a licensing of the technology. So we would have liked to have known a little bit more about that, but time wasn't allowed, obviously.
Okay. LivingLAB.
We really like what you're doing, and we think that you're probably the furthest along out of most of the startups here today, and you really put together an interesting model. We have some concerns about onboarding multiple properties in multiple cities, and you really didn't address that in the presentation today, but we think that you're onto something, and this is likely to be a very large business.
Okay. MedServe.
We really liked the presentation. I liked how you told a story and you made it very personal. I thought that was very effective. In addition, you clearly laid out that you're solving an important problem. One of the issues is that at some point, which you'll get in the future, we'll get metrics in terms of how many people enter your program end up being primary care doctors, and that's going to be very powerful to sell the program. In addition, you just got $1 million, so we're wondering why you need the 50. But it was a great presentation. We enjoyed it, and it's a great story.
Very good. Okay, Ungraded Produce.
So we thought you gave a strong presentation. We were impressed by the customers and the growth that you've had. Your ability to speak very quickly to how you would address underprivileged and underserved markets. It's an interesting idea going to churches and having that boots on the ground opportunity. Some of our concerns are around the cost of logistics and the expense, the savings compared to Harris Teeter. Well, you could find those same savings, potentially more at Walmart or at Food Lion, and the ability to expand beyond the triangle. But overall, we're really impressed by your hard work and where you've gotten to date.
Okay. So we're about to announce the winner. We're about to have Josh announce the winner. But before we do that, I just want to do the last plug. Thank you so much for coming. We are having a reception immediately afterwards. Food at the JB Duke Hotel. If you don't know where that is, you're going to follow Monica over there, who works with me. But you're basically going to go out those doors, go outside, cross a bridge. You'll be at the JB Duke Hotel. We're going to be at the main bar, not the old bar, the main lobby bar. It's beautiful. We're going to have free food. It is a cash bar. Sorry. Okay. Round one deadline for this year's competition. If you were inspired tonight, if you want to give it a shot, do not be intimidated by how far along these startups were. If you just have an idea, please join us. Apply by October 30th, 2017. The deadline, the application is online. Okay, see you at the JB Duke Hotel. It is beautiful there. Okay, with that, Josh, come on up and do the honors if you don't mind. You want me to do that?
Audience drum roll. Hey, the winner of the 2017 Duke Startup Challenge, Ungraded Produce.
Oh my gosh, all right, congratulations. Come on up here. Come on up, Alyssa. Come on up, Monica. Everyone that helped here. Come on up into the picture here. All right, congratulations. Oh my gosh. That's it. Good night, everybody.
Yeah, I'm just incredibly excited, incredibly honored. It's really awesome being a produce company in a sea of tech and med companies and being recognized still. So I'm just really excited and honored.